Hi there. We are Dreamtek. And at Dreamtek, we do a lot of things, and we like to think we do them rather well. We love creating content, and it can take many different shapes and forms. Sometimes as a beautifully shot corporate or brand film. Other times, we use fun and creative motion graphics and animation. We love telling stories about people and connecting you to people we think you need to hear from. We love technology, not only because it's cool, but also because new technology allows us to tell better stories and create really engaging experiences. Think 360 virtual reality. We want to put you in the middle of the action and laugh with you when we see your reaction. We have some really clever people who are passionate about video optimization and analytics. They'll make sure your content is viewed at the right time and on the right platform to really engage your clients. They know how to help your brand get the attention it deserves. Our staffing services don't just drive us, they define us. Dreamtek offers specialized services that connect you with reliable and creative production, multimedia, and video engineering professionals. Live events and streaming? We've got you covered, and we've delivered some groundbreaking projects in this field. And because we love creating content, we've even created some of our own video solutions. We've built the space so you can set the stage. We are content creators with Dreamtek family members in London, New York, and Dubai. And while we all talk with different accents, we all talk creative. We even have a sister company. They are a next-gen creative technology company that delivers robust digital platforms which transform businesses, learning environments, and content-driven experiences. You can stay up to date with what we're doing on our website, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and you can even tweet at us.
Hi everybody, thank you for coming today to our event at Citizen M. We're going to be talking about a few different things today, primarily in the video landscape. So we're going to be talking about GDPR and its effect on marketing, as well as Tom giving us an overview of the corporate TV and digital content creation that we're doing at the moment. And then later on, I'm going to be talking to you about live streaming. So please enjoy. If you've got any questions, don't hesitate to ask the team. We are going to do some drinks at the end, so meet us downstairs and have a drink. Over to you.
Okay, give me a second to sort this out. The mouth a little bit backwards. There we go, seamless. Okay, so I've been given 30 minutes to talk to you about the power of corporate TV. 30 minutes is not a long time to devote to something that probably has taken me the last 5 years to try and get my head around. So this is a real high level kind of view on corporate TV, and it's also kind of some of the insights into what I've managed to do over that time. It's definitely not going to be everything, so if you want to have a chat with me, I'll put my contact details up at the end, or if you want to meet me downstairs for a drink, we can also talk about everything corporate TV. So, who am I? Well, I'm Tom Blades. I'm the head of digital learning content here at Dreamtek, and I also look after our corporate TV. So, over the past 15 years, I've pretty much held every single job you can imagine within sort of the learning and development sphere, and that's from training apprentices all the way up to managing a team of content creators, of which 2 of them are here today actually. So I pretty much know what that landscape looks like. Over the past sort of 5 years, I was given the opportunity to kind of change my path and the path of the company that I was working for, which was a big car manufacturer, and given the job of revolutionising the way that they do their communications and also the way that they do their learning. And what popped out the other end of that was a virtual learning system that we implemented worldwide across 50 markets, and it's very successful. It almost attributes to 90% of the training that they do today in their offer. The other thing that we did, which I'm very, very proud of, is that we created a corporate TV system. And that was to do with everything to do with the learning content, but also through their company internal communications as well. So if we move on to this section, I'm just going to open my slides up a little bit so I can see what I'm saying. So what is corporate TV? Well, this is what Wikipedia says corporate TV is, so I thought it was a great place to start. Corporate TV is content that is targeted towards company core selling demographics or internal employees. And it usually falls under the people that you can see there, sort of your marketing directors and your training managers and so on. What it actually is any time that we speak to our staff or any time we speak to our internals at all. And actually what we end up doing is we end up creating in silos lots of different videos all over the business that effectively only get seen by one part but could be very valuable to the other. So really that could be product videos, process explanations, it could be safety information, and really that's where corporate TV gets its sort of bad name. You know, you've got your health and safety videos that everybody's been made to watch, and that's the kind of taint that we've had on corporate TV over the sort of the past 30 years really. Pieces to cameras by managing directors, customer reviews or vox pops from customers and so on, or it could be something like a competitor review of a product or something. So what is the general perception of that corporate TV? So over the last, sort of say, 5 years, I've done quite a long study of the people that we've come into contact with, and it always ends up being weighed at this end, at the bad side. Okay, there are some good things, as you can see, better than a letter or memo, good replacement for click-through e-learning. You know, if anybody uses it, get click-through e-learning, we've completely missed the millennial generation and we haven't made anything that suits for them for quite some time. You know, it's often a more personal touch for higher level management to speak to the staff or internals. Some of the bad stuff, as I mentioned, does outweigh that, and that is it's often poorly produced, you know, iPads or iPhones or those sort of things. Stiff presenting, you know, a little bit like me now, but you know, these people are good at their jobs, but they're no presenters. When you actually physically see a presenter on camera, you realise that that's a craft. You know, that's somebody that can really deliver that message, and you buy into them and they have empathy and all those different things. And that's what I've learnt over this time that we need to try and get into our corporate TV. It's boring and not engaging, and that's kind of my end message. And there's lots of marketing language being used. It's sometimes a difficult watch, as some people would say. If you're the people that make this content, often you end up with low viewing figures, okay? They're very hard to access, you know, they're often buried into company forums or learning management systems or websites, and then once they've been viewed once via email, they're never viewed again. And it's a real waste of resource. Difficult to organise and difficult to create. So, you know, one of the things that we notice about managing directors' pieces to cameras is they're very busy people. They're very difficult to get hold of. They often turn up unprepared. You know, they've got less time than it takes to actually deliver that piece to camera, and therefore the result is that it's not engaging. It has all those extra bits and bobs in as well. So I'm going to do a quick stand-up exercise just to start us all off. Again, you don't have to do that in case you hit the button. Okay, but if I could get you all to stand up for me. Not because it's 3:30 and I think we need to liven things up a bit. So, first question, really easy. Sit down if you don't have a smartphone. Well, that was easy. Sit down if you haven't watched a video on your smartphone or device this week. Okay. So this one is a little bit different. So remain standing if you've watched a piece of corporate video this week. Okay, yeah, brilliant. And remain standing, this is the crux of it, if you found that piece of corporate video to be engaging, and as engaging as the videos that you normally watch on your smartphone and smart devices. Okay, so some people are doing it fantastically, that's brilliant, but if you turn around, you can see that most people are sat down. And that's really the key to what I'm trying to say here, is that we have lots of process within making corporate video. You know, big businesses are already buying into this model, but we're not creating engaging content. We know the power of video. We know the power of video as being Dreamtek. That's what we do. But we're not engaging people with the corporate video that we're making. We've missed a trick. So we cannot take the standpoint of, you have to watch this because it's your job. You know, these people are consuming lots of content on their devices every single day, and they're choosing to watch certain amounts of content or certain types of content. So we need to move with the times and try and get things a little bit more on that line. We also neglect the way it's delivered, you know, and consumed by individuals. So as you saw from that stand-up exercise, most people are watching these things in their smart devices. We're not making things that are scalable. We're not making things that are delivered at the moment of need of watching that video as well. So delivered to your device. Okay, so I'm going to give you an example of kind of where I think corporate media should be, or corporate TV should be. So I'm going to stick with something that I already know, and that is car sales executives. But they're indicative of any sort of working job role. They're very similar to most sales executives, whatever industry it might be in. So on a daily basis, this is what our car sales executive has to take in or has to consume. Some click-through e-learning, which is produced at Centre. They have some memos and corporate letters that are the written word, usually delivered in email form. They have to interact with their brand or interact with their company via virtual classroom or by webinar or so on. And then on this particular day, this car sales executive has to watch a 35-minute presentation that the managing director gave to that company, and they turned up and had less time than they were imagining and had to deliver all their financial results in one go. So that's parts, sales, after sales, everything all in one go. Our sales executive is not engaged with any of this content that's being delivered to them. What she's more engaged with is this. So on a daily basis, our same car sales executive, within working hours, so sometimes, often before work, definitely after work, our car sales executive is consuming this. Up to 8 hours, depending on what kind of research you read, that she is navigating to and consuming. So you've got a vlog there, so that's a makeup tutorial. She's a keen cyclist, so she, like me as well, so she watches the Global Cycling Network on YouTube. She also, for her job, and we'll cover this in a second, she looks at the reviews that Honest John puts out of in this case, the Mazda. And then when she gets home, or perhaps when she's still at work, she's watching the BBC for news and current affairs. She has a Netflix app on her smart device, and she's also watching Sky TV. So let's take one of those, for example. So this is a vlog. Don't know if you've seen these before, but there are thousands on YouTube. And when you see Hannah's presentation later on kind of this kind of live streaming or this sort of content, then you'll notice that, or you'll see the sort of figures, or be astounded by the figures that she mentions, the amount of people that are actually creating this content and how much is out there. What I'm trying to get to is that this sales executive is navigating to something that looks like this. Okay, it's usually always the same. The person is in the center of the frame. When they deliver their presentation, or where they deliver their film, the cuts, as you can see, are all there to be seen. So there's no other camera, there's no fancy producing, but what we would look at that and say is that is indicative of a vlog. Yeah, they're all the same. Regardless of what the subject is, that is being burnt into our psyche the more vlogs we watch, and we understand that that's a vlog. Yeah, it's the presentation style. Where are we in our corporate landscape making anything that looks like this? What we can do is take one step closer. Maybe if we take the managing director's piece to camera, we could get a little bit closer to this by shooting in this style. We could make it bite-sized. We could make the managing director go out and make that type of film to try and key into some of that psyche that, this is a blog, this is rememberable, this is familiar to me, this is the kind of thing that I like to watch. So, let's take the next one down, and that is our Honest John car reviews. So what our car sales executive likes about our Honest John car sales reviews is that they're weekly. She can subscribe to them. She gets notifications through her device that one is available to watch. She also likes the fact that it's formulaic. Yeah? Honest John does a piece of the camera at the start, then he has a 5-point walk around of the vehicle, then they go to the boot, then they go to the navigation system, and so on. So she knows if she's got 5 minutes before a customer comes in and they're interested in the Mazda 3 in reference to the car that she's selling, she can quickly go and have a look at some of those key features and the things that she knows are important. You can see they're delivered in not a gonzo style, but they're delivered in quite a rough style. This person isn't following marketing protocol for the brand. It doesn't look like a TV advertisement, but it's something that she can relate to. It's something that they are already navigating to. And this person has thousands and thousands of subscribers, and we can tap into that by emulating the style. The problem with our salesperson viewing this type of content is that actually Honest John has a splash of fact and quite a good glug of opinion. And what we tend to find, and what I've found by being in that industry, is that when you go out there onto the shop floor, into the sales arena, these people, you can actually hear them talking through the sales executives. Oh, you don't want to buy one of them, the boot's rubbish, and it's got this, and it's got that. Oh, it's not, and the opinion from Honest John is finding its way onto the floor. But if we can make something that looks like this, with the language and with the key brand perspective of whatever the person or the company is selling, then we can control what people effectively passing on to our customer base. But we're doing it in a way that's very sneaky. It looks like this and it's more appealing, and again, it's something that's very familiar. Right. So I've already mentioned a little bit about the interface, but again, we're missing a trick a little bit here really when we think about the interface. So a lot of the companies that I've worked with bury these films into their LMS systems or onto their company forums, but this car sales executive is already consuming this on these sort of interfaces. They're world-class interfaces. So, if the car sales executive is already consuming this type of media and is going to these things in particular, all we need to be thinking about, if we're going to be creating some new corporate media in the future, is trying to put these pieces of the puzzle together by having a splash of this sort of style, but adding in all of the key messages and the corporate and brand tone of voice, if you will, means that we can, one, make our brand happy, and two, make our car sales executive happy as well. You've got to love a bit of PowerPoint at the end of the day, haven't you? But it's serious in the fact that this car sales executive, if we take in summary, will search for and consume information from Elon Musk more than she will from her own directors and own managers within her business. And that's because they're accessible and they're putting out content that she wants to view and is almost streamed into her brain because she's seeing it all the time through social media channels. She also chooses to do her research for her own sales pitch via an internet search engine rather than looking through corporate channels. She effectively trusts the word of somebody who has 1 million YouTube followers rather than anybody in a corporate standpoint. So what our aim to do with our corporate media is to try and move that a little bit closer. To try and tap into some of those methods of filming, tap into some of those things that people are already consuming and bring a corporate standpoint to it. So, how do we do that? Well, when we're creating this type of media, feedback. It's really important. So the success of this model relies very heavily on the business being able to strike a compromise between what the end user wants and what the brand wants. So one of the things that we've found when we've been trying to create this media is that, of course, we're starting to ruffle some feathers. You know, you can't talk to our sales executives like that. You can't talk to our staff like that, because they need to have on-brand messages. They have to be 100% of the time talked to in marketing language. But through focus groups, we breed confidence by getting feedback from the end user, by getting feedback from the people within the business. We can breed that confidence that this is the way to go, this is the way forward. So, second one down is finding talent. So, one of the things that we did when we have implemented this into different businesses is we found talent to be in front of the camera. So we need to find somebody that talks to the common person, talks to the common worker, but also strikes the sort of bridge between what the brand representative would want as well. So we need to find somebody that speaks to both of those categories. Never stop evolving. Yeah. So as I mentioned at the start, we're kind of way off what millennials are kind of watching at the moment, and even Generation Y and so on. So the corporate TV standpoint that we're making is not engaging enough as it is. But if we go down this line, we're going to start to see that sort of horizon, or start to see the curve come back into view. But we shouldn't keep our eyes off the horizon on what's next. So, and then the last one there is take time to do the fun stuff. So just to give you an example, I was doing some pilots. I was doing some pilots for one of the last clients that we were working with, and they watched the video that we created, and they said, "Oh, can we just take some of that fun stuff out? Can we just keep on the message? Can we just get all those really interesting learning points in?" But that person was looking through their lens. Their lens was from a self-motivated, keen learner with a passion for learning and development. They have to shift their lens over to somebody that is undermotivated, probably undervalued, just wants to get on with their job, and sees training as time wasted, that they're not earning bonus or commission. So it's about changing that lens and making sure that you add in that fun stuff as well. So, not got a lot of time left, but I just need to talk to you about the second bit, and that is how do we start delivering this engaging content. So, these two things are kind of key: making people aware that the content exists and ensuring people are watching it. So if we take the first one, this is actually the model that I've been following throughout what we've done with sort of corporate TV. And these guys here are the Global Cycling Network. We remember them from the sales executives that were watching it earlier on. But they basically have a model that used to be the world of print. Yeah, they were a magazine, and they were creating all of this content. And on every single page, you would see, to see more, click on this link. Or if you see more, follow this link to find the information. But as with everything now, the role of print and the role of actually hard copy has all gone by the by, and they're left with a bit of a quandary. They've got all of these fantastic videos, but they've got no way of signposting them people how to watch it. So they created almost like a TV show every week. So they have a fun TV show, 10 to 15 minutes long, and it signposts people back to the additional content that they make day in, day out. And that's its sole function, that's its sole job. So that's exactly what I did. So we created the, insert company name, show. It was a 10 to 15 minute show per week, signposting the great content that we already had created. So it was constantly being said to me, "Oh, I love that video you've made. It's fantastic. It talks to me. It makes me feel like I can go on and sell whatever car it might be." But once a week had gone past, we couldn't direct people to it. We would see a bulge in the figures that people were watching, the viewing figures, and then it would go off again. So what we can do with the show is we start to see that happening, is we build the show around that topic and then re-divert people back to that content. It's a strategy that has worked day in, day out for the last 5 years. So, also we add into the show a little bit of gamification. We did some competitions, we did some work with some other contractors that would come in and give us a little bit of gamification for questions and quizzes and things that would go on in the show, so we could make sure people were watching, so we could pick up on a few different cues. We'd also give away a few mugs and and t-shirts and all sorts of things as well, just to make it fun. And mainly we would build audience relationships. So something that I found that actually we didn't expect to is that we created all this virtual learning for our last client, and really, if you have all this virtual learning, it accounts for 90% of what they're going to be delivering as their training offer. You might not see that person ever. You know, they might exist and you might be training them and you never actually physically get to shake their hand and see who they are. So in doing so, what we need to do is make sure that we are constantly talking to those people, making them feel engaged, making them feel like there is somebody at the end of that journey. So that's where the Dreamtek and our sister company Virtual Forge come in. So Dreamtek, really, we know video. Yeah, we know how to get you from one place to another. We know how to create this engaging content and help yourselves really in making that content in the end. And the Virtual Forge, so Virtual Forge are already making or working with clients to make world-class interfaces that will embed this type of platform within their programs. So it could be standalone, it could be a company forum, it could be a learning management system, but Virtual Forge are already on board with doing that. What we want to do is give the end user frictionless use whilst giving the client the analytics that they need. You know, why can somebody pick up their phone and go back to watching exactly what they wanted to watch on Netflix where they were halfway through, and Netflix knows that they watched it and they can recommend that they can watch something that's very, very similar. It shouldn't be any different when we're talking about corporate TV. You know, if these people are consuming that on a daily basis in that way, why do we think we can be any different within our corporate world? So, just to prove that I'm not just an ideas person, I have got a plan, is that we have sort of an implementation strategy that goes on for probably about 1.5 years. So in Q1, what we would say would happen is that you'd have to have this sort of research and planning period where we talk about to your board of directors and board of management about the tone of voice. And then we do some focus groups, and then we do some screen testing to make sure we can add in that fun stuff without taking away your key messages. In Q2, we have a preliminary go live, and that is to go live to your focus groups, go live to all the people that really matter within the business, and get all that feedback and do all those final tweaks. And then in the last half of the year, we go live with all bells and whistles. So we make sure that we get out there, we do all the social media buzz, we create a TV experience, yeah. And then in the second year, we go into year 2 strategies. And that's what I was saying before about we can't really stand still on this. We need to make sure that we either revamp the show, or we go into creating content in a different way, or we add in some of those future technologies. So that was a really brief rundown. But again, I'm more than happy to talk to people about how you might implement any of these strategies, even if it's a tiny amount, even if it's something that you're already doing but you think you might want somebody to talk to for just to bounce some ideas off. I'm more than happy to do that. So there's my contact details, and obviously they'll be available through Dreamtek afterwards as well. But that is pretty much it. Okay.
Thank you very much, Tom. Does anybody have any questions for Tom? If you do, you need a microphone. So,
you talked about how to keep up with latest trends. Where do you see that evolution coming from?
So definitely, I think we can't stand still. And one of the future trends that you can see here is what we are pretty much well known for and do best, and that is our sort of live streaming capability. So I think embedding live streaming into the way that we do corporate TV is an absolute must going forwards. And further to that, obviously, we are a partner with, and Hannah will mention this later, we're a partner with a company called InExpo. So what InExpo have brought is they've kind of brought that live streaming capability wrapped up in a beautiful environment with low latency, and they're bringing that to a kind of a virtual classroom style, so you can have this real interactive environment with accreditation and all the rest of it. So InExpo is a really important tool match with the live streaming that we can utilise to try and get this this sort of bit of difference into the way you do corporate TV.
Okay, so you said correctly that presenters, when they make a video, it's very different the way they talk, the way they approach the audience. So I was wondering, would it be better to hire a professional presenter for a corporate video, or would it be easier to use someone from the corporation? I guess it's pretty, demanding thing doing this video for weeks. So yeah, I was wondering which one would be best.
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's something that we've sort of toyed with for quite some time. For me, I would go for utilising some talent. I think it's easier for them to adapt themselves to the company message and also the content than it is for somebody that is not natural in front of the camera or cannot devote the time to be natural in front of the camera. I think it's easier for them to go that way than it is for that person to come in the opposite direction. So again, just from the trials that we've gone through, I would say that is the best course of action. And in fact, in the last place where we implemented the full TV show, that's what we did with the corporate media strategies. We kind of took down some of the barriers, if you will, and we put in 2 professional presenters full time, and they would do script writing pretty much every day of the week. And then when they weren't script writing, they would be delivering to camera. And it was only a matter of weeks before we saw some the people sort of coming to us and saying, "Where did you find them? They know everything about our business." No, they don't. They're just really good presenters. So I think trying to find people from that world is absolutely optimum to making this work. Yeah. Okay.
You have one microphone.
Oh, he's got a microphone on. Oh, yeah.
Is it working, microphone?
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Well, Tom, thank you very much for the presentation. Obviously, you are expert in video content, delivering beautiful video solutions. How do you see, and from your experience, how do you see data helping a company deliver a better video solution with the exact content their end users and clients are looking for?
Yeah, so definitely. So as you saw from a presentation, feedback is probably the most important thing. So again, every time that we've implemented this sort of system, we've had the help of Virtual Forge, which is always good, to try and feedback on data and trying to find out what are the key trends, making sure that we are being adaptive for the content that we need to create. I think as that gets even cleverer, we're talking about some of the pre-predictives of some of the things that are coming through. I think that will make things even easier when it comes to what video should we make this week. What is it that we sit around a table and start scripts? So I think that's a massive thing. And also when we think about the analytics that are needed by the client or the customer, they definitely need to know who watched it, how long they watched it for, and so on. And for me, it's a huge thing. This is, and perhaps I should have been part of my presentation, but there you go. Is that we need to move away from mandated learning. We need to move away from mandated. You must watch this for an internal staff or communication, etc. We need to find people that navigate there naturally, and we'll do that by making things a lot more engaging, and we'll do that by making things easier for people to watch and more, so that it's in their palm of their hand and so on, and more accessible. But what we'll also do is that if we can be able to see who's not watching it at any point in time, we'll be able to react to that. And by doing that, I think that we'll move away from this sort of mandated learning that we kind of have at the moment.
Tom, typically, what sort of budget would you be talking about on an annual basis for a corporate TV channel? I know that's probably how long is a piece of string.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. How much you got to spend? No. So I think it's a really difficult one to do, but for me, I think you have to start small. And you have to prove its worth. So I think the main thing to do is to really focus on where your skill sets are already within the business and what you need. So if you need a cameraman or if you need a presenter, what's going to make the low-hanging fruit really? And then, like what happened to me in my last job, is that we went from a very small budget. You know, I can't remember off the top of the head what it was, but we, as I mentioned, ended up as the biggest department very, very quickly. So I think you have to shoot low to start off with, and think you need to get through the door. You need to buy some equipment that's going to make things, or rent some equipment that's going to make things really easy and to make things look very appealing straight away. And I think that you need to build on, you have a goal and build on it from there.
And actually, sorry, if I can, one other question. Would you advocate internal teams to do that, or bringing in agencies to do that?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? I think it depends on the economy of scale. So one of the things that we really passionate about here at Dreamtek is, and one of the reasons that I find it so appealing, is that we, or Dreamtek, actually helped develop the skills of the people within my last client that we were working with. So it ended up as an internal team, but along the way, Dreamtek turbo boosted all of those things, and an agency will turbo boost those things to make it happen. Also, as well, this is a really interesting point. Actually, I'm probably going to go over here, but yeah, I had a meeting with somebody and said, "Oh yeah, we're an internal team. Yeah, we were 4 and now we're 10." Well, no, you're not an internal team. You've gone and got those people. They were external and now they're internal to you as well. And again, they were found by people like us that can find talent in those certain areas. But you definitely need some key people to make that happen.
We probably have time for one more question, if anybody has one.
I will take time that allows. Thank you for that. So that was a bit more inspiring. I mean, I'm planning on doing some live streaming for a conference I'm organising in a fortnight's time. And obviously I want to get the message out to the widest audience. I may be, you may shaming me already, may not have the right analytics in the background to actually see the audience outside of social media that may be tweeting or something and commenting.
Yeah.
So you get a generalisation. Is there key pointers that if you're just generally streaming out and you want to get value out of that, the sort of things that you need to think about?
Well, I definitely won't take any far away from Hannah's presentation, which is
Right,
all
okay,
on streaming. But yeah, I think Hannah would be the definite person to talk to about that. And you are exactly right. You want more than being able to say, well, wasn't that good afterwards? You know, you need to have that analytics. You need to make sure that people there, that the target audience that you want them to be there. So I'll leave that to Hannah to talk about. But thank you. Yeah. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much, Tom.
Thank you.
Up next, we welcome Marco to the stage.
Thank you very much. I think I need you to lock me up.
It's open, I think. I just need to close that one. Just if I can.
Sorry about that. Right, we just need to display full screen.
Yeah. Get rid of that. Put you in there. See.
Full screen. Perfect. So it's perfect. All right. Is it? Sorry about that. Well, thank you very much. And again, thank you very much, Tom, for your brilliant presentation. I'm going to talk about the GDPR and the impact that will have on marketing. So you can relax. I won't give you an hassle around the compliance that surrounds the regulation. I'll try to focus more on the effects that will have on marketing and how can companies put a very good strategy in place to spin around it, all right? So yes, obviously we have the agenda, very briefly introduction to our core services and GDPR background. Then again, we have the effect obviously that we'll have on marketing, the importance of data intelligence nowadays. So apparently data intelligence is everywhere and it helps companies obviously to build a more productive and solid solutions and get engagement with the audience they need. And finally, strategies that will enable you to have that opt-in. Companies desperately need to engage, obviously, with the audience and the client itself, but also what can you do? And I'll give you some very good suggestions about the topic, all right? So, get to know me. Obviously, as you probably have understood, I'm not English, I'm Portuguese, but can I ask if any one of you have been to Portugal already before? Yeah, as you know, the weather there is pretty awful, so I was trying to avoid that beautiful and sunny Portugal weather and just decided to move to London. I have over 4 years of experience in marketing and sales activities, so I've went through implementing service design strategies to manage IT teams. That is mostly my background experiences in IT, and then and sales, obviously, enablements, where I deliver solutions that will help companies get exactly what they need. And this last 6 months, I've been dedicating very much to consultancy around the GDPR and helping organizations not only getting there, but also to make sure that they don't lose the orientation they need to, at the end of the day, get those targets. The sales team and the operations team are always pushing on for the marketing team to help them out with. Right, our core services. We try to understand the GDPR on a very nimble and simple approach. So rather than going there and say, you can do this, you can do that, you'll be not complying with the regulation, we actually try to understand what sort of business you have and how much does it impact with the regulation. And then, obviously, we want, yes, we do the audit, we do the assessment, all the compliance mapping, but we tend much to focus on how can you get those campaigns in, how can you proper manage your policy that won't affect your business prior to the May 25th, and then obviously helping you getting there, and without taking much of the policies, not the policies, but all the orientation again that you have. So, because I've seen cases and scenarios where companies were actually not doing something that was uncompliant, was actually quite legal, but they thought that it would obviously affect afterwards their business. So we don't want that, and we actually streamline very much all this process. Oh, and sorry. And well, perhaps some of you guys already saw the year, but so just so that I know more or less how good you are situated within this regulation and the Data Protection Act. Do you know when, some moment in time was the Data Protection Act, which is obviously the previous data policy, was put into force?
84.
Sorry?
84.
84. Not exactly that. It was in 1998, Data Protection Act. So yes. So just so you have an idea of how much the world changed since then. France wins the World Cup this year, all right? Bill Clinton and Monica Lewinsky were news at the time. You guys remember that? I was a kid, but I do remember. A very excited startup was founded. Google, exactly. Google looked like this back in 1998. Amazing, right? And the Data Protection Act comes into force. All right? And again, the world has changed so much that to think that the Data Protection Act was still appropriate was actually a misunderstanding of how much the world has changed and is actually stretching the capacity that it really has, actually. All right, in a nutshell, what is the GDPR? So the GDPR is obviously the new regulation. A basic change is right now is recognized by law, whereas the previous act wasn't recognized by law. Now there's a law that says I recognize the GDPR, all right? But well, obviously all the fundamentals is to protect the users, our data that is out there, and across all EU member states, but to avoid security breaches and to make sure that organizations can no longer mess around with the data they held on us, right? Again, focus is on people. Does anyone know what the PII stands for?
General Data Protection Regulation.
Personal identifiable information. So basically, it's all the information that enables one to recognize me as an individual. Can be my name, my address, or even a simple license plate. All right, any information that allows me to recognize me as an individual. And well, the very good news is now grants more rights to people. I'm sorry, and obviously obliges organizations to have more accountability on the data they held on us. No more messing around with our information. Right, straight to the main topic with no further ado. So how will the GDPR impact my marketing? Does anyone have a rough idea?
You need registered consent from everybody whose information you
Mm-hmm.
You need to give them the ability to review that consent.
Absolutely.
And if they request it, you need to remove them or anonymize them.
For example, what we are actually going to see now is what changes and how can we still be compliant, even if one doesn't give consent. Do you think it's possible?
Certainly it's the citizen's interest.
Exactly. But what is the extent of the legitimate interest? That's what we are going to see, all right? All right, why should you worry? Well, there are three main topics and bullet points that I think it's very important. Well, the first one, obviously, it's a large fine. It can go up to 4% of your global turnover or 20 million. Depends which one is higher. These are very large numbers. And I've been receiving these last couple of weeks emails of companies trying to have me opt in, obviously, to their policy, to their new policy, and some of them are doing everything wrong. It's amazing how it's still possible with so much time. So with the extent of time they had, 2 years. So let's think about it. It's a very fair length of time to do this correctly, and they are still missing out the whole picture. Let me give you an example. A company that I normally buy things for, rather than trying to have me opting in, they tried to having me opting out. That's completely out, really. So this is a very simple example. But again, another very important one is obviously brand awareness. We've had Tom obviously walking us through the importance of video, corporate videos. How can we engage better with our audience? And everything right now happens on the internet. So I can if I'm not happy with a company that I normally buy things or you know, let's forget about the GDPR right now. So if I'm not happy about some kind of situation, I can easily go to Twitter or go on Twitter. I'm sorry, Facebook, and display my not only disagreement but unhappiness with the situation. So right now it's very important that companies understand this. And I would say that how many in the audience are marketeers? Or working marketing directly, right? A few. So rather than working on a crisis or to overpass a crisis, you know, I think marketeers right now need to expect scenarios and avoid those gaps to happen. And if they are there, they need to narrow down the risk and work amongst it. So we don't obviously want that. And right now it's your database. It's your role also to ensure it's compliant. It's your role to work with the governance team, the data team, and to ensure that what you have in your database is reliable, it's trustworthy in order for you to undertake all those marketing enablements that you need to get you to those targets. Okay. So biggest GDPR concerns, I'm sure some of you have it all. So again, consent, we will understand the consent, the legacy of data. What can you do with the data that you had prior to the GDPR and prior to the opt-in consent, profiling, third party, so managing their breaches. So again, if a data breach occurs, it's also your responsibility as marketeers to put in place a plan that will help the organization to try to communicate to outside on a nicer way or on a nice way that the breach occurred, and how could you do that? Work around the internal also communication. So this is also very important and something that marketeers need to explore. And managing subject access requests, work with your team to establish a process that will streamline and make this communication and the information you now need to provide when requested by your clients on a simpler and more nimble way, and user-friendly as well. Right, consent. So consent, as you rightfully said, needs to be freely given. So there are no longer the situation that consent can be given on an implicit manner. No way that can happen again. So I need to specifically give my consent to use my data to an exact purpose. Again, the opt-in can be a very simple situation where you just have a ticket box. Personally, and I will show you a very good example further down the presentation. You can easily have a button that you press and you provide consent. It's more user-friendly. People like it better, and also again addresses a very good brand equity to your marketing enablement. And you must keep the records of consent. So say that you get consent by email, so that consent goes directly to your CRM system, and you will need to keep the record how was the consent stored, so that if you suffer an audit, for example, you can showcase exactly what the audit analyst wants to see. All right. Again, as I mentioned, consent occurs when a data subject grants you permission to use their personal data for a specific purpose. All right. Right. Legacy data. How many of you think this will actually happen, and how many of you think that it's going to happen in your company? So your database in 2017, your database in 2018. Right. This is a situation that if your company only started to look into the GDPR, say 1 month, 2 months ago, this will most definitely going to happen. All right, because you didn't give the time for your users to understand that to understand what's going to change in your organization. And sometimes I don't even read emails, right? So I can easily not avoiding to go to my personal email for what, 2 days, 3 days. This can be one of the situations, and most definitely, consequently, what will happen is your database will decrease, the number of contacts will decrease, and you need to work around a strategic plan to regain part of these loss. All right, and there are obviously alternatives to this. All right, building an opt-in marketing campaign. Well, I tried to announce most of the situations where you have or where do you get your data from. So again, you need from the beginning to put an opt-in point of entry right in place right away. All right, can either come from web forms, event registration. So this is very important. I'm also going to explore third-party data. So if you work with say partners that where you buy the databases for, you need to ensure that these partners abide the standards for the GDPR, social media, and then make sure that the CRM system has all this stored in order to avoid bad consequences. All right. Right. So as I told, I was going to explore and walk you through three examples. Obviously, the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's the most standard showcase of examples that can deliver a good understanding of what companies should do in a particular situation. Let's overview how would a good example would be to get the opt-in from your clients, all right, or end users. So the ugly. Why is this not only wrong but illegal? Can anyone point out why? Yes. So.
Well, firstly, don't know what I'm opting into. Then there's no button for me to be able to look at that. There isn't the ability to be able to say, no, remove me permanently. There's no link there to actually say where the policy is generally. Not the privacy policy, the GDPR policy is a separate entity.
Exactly.
So I'm going into something that I don't really know, and that's common actually in a lot of the opt-ins.
Exactly.
I mean, the ICO made absolutely clear it's not about opting in and opting out as we used to do. It's about knowing what you're doing with my data.
You are absolutely spot on. So there are no opt-in ticket box, no button that says no, I don't want you to use my data for marketing purposes. So I don't know what the policies are. So it's just a website asking for my data, and that's all.
Which is what most of the emails are all getting.
Well, hopefully after post Friday, that won't happen. But yes, this was the kind of situation that happened a lot. All right, and is changing drastically. It needs to change drastically. Right, a bad example. Why is this a bad example? Because it's implicit. All right, it's a predefined establishment. I agree to receive ABC incorporation newsletter. You can withdraw your consent at any time. It's not asking for directly for my and freely for my consent, and it's not giving me the option to not provide providing a no consent to receive marketing emails. All right. Right, and this is a good example. And why is this a good example? It is at all. It's user-friendly. Again, you don't need to have the ticket box. You can easily have a button where you press and say, yes, I want to hear more from you. Or no, I manage my preferences. And you can either choose from one. I obviously chose I want to hear more from you. And it's led me to another window where I basically say which information I want to receive. All right? Still very user-friendly. Still very much compliant and abiding my rights, okay? Can I stanch the wound? Yes. You mentioned in very well the legitimate interest. But I'm going to explain what is this legitimate interest. So from where you understand, and maybe you that also point out the legitimate interest, in which situation could we apply this concept?
It could be in an HR situation.
For example.
But obviously, legitimate interest, I need your data if you're an employee in order to be able to manage you and to provide your salary and to provide, etc., etc. There's legitimate interest around sensitive information, so if your job involves certain areas of the filming is going to be around children or vulnerable and things, that has to be a DBS check. Legitimate interest to retain your personal details for that purpose. And there is a 12-point thing that, as you know,
exactly.
For a checklist of legitimate interest.
For example, the HR situation would be a very good example. Although, as an employee, if I haven't acknowledged the opt-in situation, and if your company undertook it, I would maybe be in a bad situation if applicable. And do you want to maybe say another good example of legitimate interest, or you?
Okay. So if you're Amazon and you buy a parcel, you have a legitimate interest to have the address because otherwise you can't deliver said parcel.
More or less, because for you to have the address, and Amazon, I know it was one of the first companies to be compliant with the GDPR, but would already ask for your permission to have that, and to which purpose. Perhaps I can showcase some examples of a legitimate interest. So say, for example, I'm a CEO of a big company, and I'm so super busy that I receive so many emails that I missed out one of your, say, company's emails, and I'm your client, and I'm a very important client, and I missed out the opt-in option. Would you still not inviting me to one of your most important events? Of course not. There's a legitimate interest there, because they are an ongoing relationship between us two. All right. Another example is, so say that well, your Amazon example is a very good one, to be fair. So say that I'm a client of Amazon and I missed out the opt-in option, and I keep making purchases, via Amazon. There's a legitimate interest for Amazon to use your data or your address to maybe communicate products within your preference, all right, and to send you that info and to send you the product, obviously, all right. So this would be a very good example. A bad example would be, for instance, so say that I'm in your database for 4 years, 3 years, and no sort of engagement happened in these 3 years between us two. Do you think there's a legitimate interest there? I don't think so. All right. So this would be an example of that. However, if I as a client, if I as a user decide to opt out from that legitimate interest you think you have, you then lose the legitimate interest that you had priorly. All right. So profiling. This is again a very good example of how can you not need to ask for consent in order to undertake your activities, as long as it don't overpass the rights, my rights as an individual. All right. Direct marketing communications would be a very good example. Again, if I decide that I don't want to receive those direct marketing communications, you need to stop profiling me. Okay. Great. Third-party data. How much? All good. Oh, yeah. Okay. Third-party data. Well, obviously, there are numerous situations where data was acquired from, event organizers. It's an extra income for them. And right now, it's still possible. It's still legal for you to do that. You just need to be explicit and need to be thorough when communicating with the users to whom will you share the data with. There are no longer situations where your contacts may be passed to relevant parties in the health marketplace. This is too vague, all right? You need to be more specific. But it's still possible, all right? You just need to hammer down and work amongst it. Right. GDPR strategy prior to the 25th of May. This is if your company was working. This is well, obviously we will miss this picture as at the moment. But what a good strategy would be, just for you to have an idea, you would need to get compliant very fast, update your preferences, opt-in campaign. So a good strategy would be, as I received for this last 4 months from an organization that actually organized events. They were sending me on a very systematic basis and making promotions and exploring ways to get me opt-in. And eventually, after the 5th attempt, they did. So campaigns and actually there's a study that says after the 6th campaign, 80% of the users and to opt in. All right. So rather than just sending away thousands of emails as probably you are receiving at the moment. And well, by 2005, be compliant. And why is data intelligence key? So, how many of you think that data intelligence, data visualization, understand your data, understand your client's preferences is no longer directly related with marketing? How many of you think that? Do you think that data is not directly connected with marketing? Of course it is. Everything you do. So we are in the era of marketing 4.0. So every strategy you put in place you need properly to understand your who's your customer, what's your customer preferences, what's the audience, and in order to do that, you need to have a clean data. You can only do predictive models. So for the ones who don't know what predictive models are, it's basically models that you work around your data that will help you to predict what's going to happen next. All right, but you can only do that if you have a clean data. So you need to, first of all, have the data exactly segmented to the standards you want. All right, the data needs to be meaningful. It needs to exactly make you understand what are your clients doing, what are your end users doing. All right, otherwise you will lose opportunities that are in the market. And at the end of the day, what this will bring you is customer trust, because you know exactly what your client wants. All right, you can then put in place the right strategy that will provide the opportunity to only deliver the content that your client wants to receive, and with this creating the right brand awareness. Okay, I'm still receiving, so I think I've finished my master's like 6 years ago, and I'm still receiving emails from my university as with trainee with apprenticeship opportunities. I'm like, seriously? So, and this not makes me happy. All right, it's like a situation that really makes me unhappy. So this is, and companies are all right. It's all right for a university to do that. Maybe not. But for a company, would you be like to have that same sort of feeling against a company? I don't think so. This is why data intelligence is key. I think you've nailed exactly the exact points I wanted around video marketing. But how can actually video marketing? When I said you, I said Tom, my co-worker. One of the benefits that that video marketing can bring, it's not only the engagement you want to have with your clients. It's not because obviously, and we are not talking only about corporate videos, YouTube videos. You can put in place a lot of good strategies around video that includes Snapchat, Instagram, and engage with your audience from there. All right, Insta stories. Then you can just swipe up and it leads you directly either to the client's website, YouTube, you name it. There are a lot of digital channels right now that you can use to your favor. But in this situation, and if I can ask any one of you, how would you see video marketing help a company get again those opt-ins they need? Can you picture a scenario where that would work?
Well, it's obviously relevant content to the audience that you're reaching out to. So if you already have general analytics around particular profiles that you know are interested in the sort of thing or associated, then that's your target. And they're the sort of people that you will then possibly then get sign up to you.
Exactly. So, for instance, let me give you a very, very brief and direct and simple example. So say that you run events, you are having a very good event, the event costs X amount of money, but you still have 50 open seats that you can offer freely. You obviously display the video, a super engaging video, and at the end you have a link, and that if the person wants to attend, needs to go to the link and needs to subscribe, because yes, it's true, if you don't opt in and if you don't have the legitimate interest that underpins the possibility of you to use obviously their context to your purposes, yes, you can have the data again because it's a race, but it doesn't stop you to regain that engagement from the scratch. This would be a situation where this actually happens. It's important to obviously have a good engagement, good content that engage, but it would be a very nice situation. Marketing works around video so much nowadays that I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. Again, our core services. And we are the Virtual Force sister company of Dreamtek. Get in touch. I have a couple of questions from the social media posts that I put that I'm happy to respond. Maybe we can start with questions from the audience first.
Well, I have one for you. With Brexit on the horizon, what does the GDPR mean for the UK when we do leave the EU?
All right. The GDPR, so a company is under GDPR requirements if they process data, store data, monitor data of EU citizens. You as an organization, do you think you will start?
The ICO has made it clear it's a control C, control V. Once we leave, it will just be brought over. So
exactly. So rather than maybe being, they will probably not be sitting within the EU, maybe it will be considered as a third country, but still needs to be compliant because I'm pretty sure that they will be processing EU citizens' data.
Okay. Can I ask you one more question? So when our companies are promising, really, to deliver engaging, useful content to their consumers, do you think this is going to make it much harder? Is there a lot more pressure now on companies when they're providing that content marketing?
Would you rather see it as a threat or as an opportunity? Yeah. It's an opportunity. Yeah. It's an opportunity to improve your content. It's an opportunity to understand exactly what you need to do. Yes, it will give you an extra effort. You need to maybe walk an extra step, but at the end of the day, it will increase your equity as a company because you now know exactly what content you need to deliver. All right? And yes, the GDPR, and I see the GDPR as an opportunity in that field as well. It will kind of make companies do that extra effort.
I agree.
How will GDPR affect people, whether they're members of the public or members of staff that are featured in companies' films? So, for instance, if you are going out to film members of your staff, maybe for an external marketing campaign, you may ask their permission, but I understand that they can then retract their permission after they've been filmed. How does that affect a company like Dreamtek?
Good question. You have, first of all, you have one standing point that immediately responds to your comment. That is the legitimate interest. All right. After the film is added, I as an employee can say that I don't want my face to be displayed. In that sense, companies now need to obviously understand that they obviously their employees have rights and they need to respect their rights, and maybe they can't obviously send away the video to be broadcasted. But yes, these people need to be informed, all right? And if they want to have their presence removed from the video, companies now need to do that.
Probably got time for a couple more questions, if anybody in here has some. No?
Just would like to add something from the question before this, that this is something that applies also to Facebook. The new algorithm tries to bring forward content which creates engagement and conversation, and usually that's content from your friends and family. So brands now have the pressure to produce more engaging content if they still want to appear on Facebook feed.
Exactly. That's exactly it. And I have a last question. I'm sorry, I need to go to my social media because one of the questions was already responded. All right, so Luis asks, how much impact do you believe the GDPR have in the marketing strategy due to the number of people that are taking advantage of not approving the mailing list subscription? or the approval of the usage of their personal data? That is a very good question, actually, Luis, because it also covers a concept of the e-privacy regulation that comes to as an evolution to the e-privacy directive, but also to the point that, as I mentioned before, companies can no longer play around with the phenomenon of using our data. So for you to have an idea, just briefly, the e-privacy regulation. The first time we've heard about privacy policies, do you know that it was in 1800 to avoid the mailman to open our letters. This was the first time, which obviously evolved when the telecommunication companies had responsibility on the communication with all the installations and so far and so forth. And now it's extended to email marketing with the span, but everything around the electronic devices will affect as well. It's also an evolution to the cookie law. But at the end of the day, what it aims is to make sure that every transaction between one sphere to another, this means that I can send you an email. Everything that needs to, from the moment that the email goes from one point to the end point, needs to be respected, from the email itself, the cloud, or the infrastructure, and to assure that my data is protected and is being abided. Any other question?
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
We're just taking a coffee break now. We'll kind of reconvene at 1:45.
Hope everybody's refueled and enjoyed Marco and Tom's presentation. I'm not sure about you, but what I got from Marco's presentation was that he doesn't read his emails. That was the piece of information I picked up, which is appropriate because every time there's a birthday at work and things like this, he doesn't seem to be responding. So that's an interesting point, Marco, and we will be discussing this afterwards. And obviously, thank you to Tom as well. So Tom used to work for one of our customers and fell in love with us all so much that he came to work with us, and he's a fantastic addition to the team. And he's really enjoyed the makeup today. So obviously when you live stream and the lights are glaring in your eyes, he's enjoyed a little bit of powder. So it's been a good all-round experience for everybody. So I'm going to talk to you about live streaming. So my name's Hannah Masson. I am the Vice President at Dreamtek. I've worked for Dreamtek for nearly 10 years now. And the company's really evolved through my time there. And we've done lots of different things to do with video and audio, and it's always come back to helping our customers deliver their messages. So schools, colleges, corporate customers, and also lots of brands and people like that. But the focus has always been making sure that the customers have got the support they need to deliver those messages. This is a really interesting quote that we got. 1.8 million words. That's the value of 1 minute of video. And the point here is that you can listen to somebody talking, or you can read a piece of text, or you can look at a picture, but actually a video can speak volumes for you, which is why we use it so much. So to start off, practicing what we preach, I hate sitting through presentations. It's the most dull experience in my life. I don't know about you guys, but you sit there, you kind of get that blurry eye, you're trying to focus and you just can't. So what we like to do is make it engaging and get you guys to look at content and look at examples of what we've done previously. So I'm going to show you a video of a live stream we did in New York. It was incredibly exciting for us because we got to work with Michelle Obama and Glamour magazine. We were filming a live stream where she was talking to hundreds and thousands of young girls across the world, empowering them to be powerful women, which we feel very strongly about, obviously being a woman myself. Our CEO is also a woman, and we have lots of other people in senior positions that are women. And we want to empower them and make them feel that they can do as well as the other men in the world, that they might not have felt like that 10 years ago. So Michelle Obama and Charlize, we were discussing this earlier, I can't pronounce her surname, Theron? Theron? Well, let's go with Theron. Charlize Theron spent a long time speaking to some of these girls on a panel discussion, so there was lots of moving parts in this live stream. We had streams coming in from Kenya, from Ghana, Philippines, as well as in New York itself, being filmed through an auditorium at the Apollo. So it was a very, very difficult job for us to do in terms of execution. But it went very, very well, thank goodness. And the results came out and spoke for themselves. So let me show you this video.
Can I hear you?
When I think about those 62 million girls that aren't in schools, these are our girls.
62 million girls!
We all want a chance to be great.
Educating girls is the key to all of that. You were able to lead and to shine and to learn and to teach.
There is nothing sexier than a smart woman. Education is actually saving lives.
We have been asking government officials and policymakers to pass laws in order for girls to go to school again.
So you take a photo of yourself, you upload it, and then you send it to everyone you know. We're going to make this go viral. In school, I learned how to speak up for myself.
14 cents a day to educate a girl. That's got to be doable.
We have been told to live by a certain mold, and it's time to break it.
We can never give up.
Okay, so obviously we're creating these interactive live streams for people, and it takes lots of different moving parts of the business to make that happen. It's not just one person. As you can see here today, there's a whole host of people helping us to broadcast live to Facebook, hello, and live to YouTube. Hi guys. All these divisions of the company work together to make these live streams come together. So we've got our video production team, which are the people behind the cameras. Give us a wave, guys. There they are, yeah. We've got our systems integration team, who are the engineering and the technical people. Hello, boys. Lovely to see you. Who are making this all work. You know, you can have a camera, you can have any type of technology you like, but unless you've got two people that are making all these programs work, then it doesn't happen. And you've also got the talent as well. So people that we draft in sometimes for these large-scale events. You know, we're not a huge company. We're very agile and flexible, and we like to keep it that way. But we have a huge resource pool of freelancers and contractors that work with us that enable us to do these really, really large global events. Okay, so Dreamtek's trusted. People trust us to do this because we've been doing it a long time. We're very good at video. We're very good at what we do. And we make good content. As you can see from the Michelle Obama one, it's, you know, very well edited, well shot. And the reason people come back to us is because we're good at our job. So these are just some interesting areas. So 80% prefer video. The way forward is customer engagement. A lot of the people that we speak to want to create more video because they want more engagement from their users. They might be delivering flat content. They might be delivering things. You know, a lot of the companies that we speak to are delivering pieces of paper out instead of creating interactive content. So we're trying to encourage people to be the content creators, and we want to empower those individuals. So what makes a good stream? I know you asked earlier about the analytics, so I'm going to touch on that. But interactive content. So when you're putting it out to multiple platforms, you get this capability of making it interactive. So we can have lots of thumbs up. So if you're watching on Facebook now, I'd like you all to give us a thumbs up. Please don't put the crying face of tears, or crying face of laughter from the powder that I've had to put on. But you can make it interactive and you can get people to respond to you. So if somebody doesn't like your stream, or you're talking about a subject matter that isn't relevant and they're saying, oh, you know, why is she mentioning that? What's she going off on a tangent for? We can then bring the speaker back to the point that we initially wanted the live stream to be about. And also it gives you feedback as well. So, you know, if you're doing a good job of it and you want somebody to give you relevant content, or, you know, it might be that something you've mentioned is really relevant for another person watching the stream, they can comment about that, and then you can further that point through your presentation. So interactivity is really important. And engaging the audience. I happen to think I'm actually quite funny. I don't think my co-workers probably would. They'd probably say that they like laughing at me, but not necessarily that I am a funny person. But engaging the audience in them and making it a presentation that they want to watch and something that people want to feel part of is really important. There's no point talking about a subject that nobody wants to hear about. So thank you for all coming, and I'm glad that you're all listening. Professional output. This is really important, and we will touch on this later. But if you're creating content and you're representing your brand, your customer, or yourself, it has to be professional. Otherwise, you're not going to do yourself any justice. And measuring success. Obviously, we have partners at the Virtual Forge who help us analyse the data that we get from live streams. We can actually better analyse the data that we're going to get from the live stream from this event than we can from you guys in the room. Because you might all be looking at me at the moment thinking, she just needs to be quiet. But the people on the live stream, we can actually assess whether they're engaged in the content that they're watching, whether they're, you know, having a little look on Next and doing some shopping whilst we're doing it, which I know Georgia likes to do in the office if we're watching a live stream. We can actually measure that, and we can see if they're interested in it. We can see if they're clicking at certain points. We can tell which areas they watch the video for and when they re-engage, so which subjects are appropriate. We can look at the demographic, so whether they're female or male, where they live, what age they are. We can look at the IP address ranges, so it's really, really drilled down information that you don't get from somebody sat in a physical space. So with live streaming, you can have this kind of bolt-on of analytics of the data. And that then leads us on to knowing your audience. So we kind of pride ourselves in making sure that we invite the relevant people to these types of events. Nobody wants to listen to a GDPR event if they're in, I don't know, maybe a plumber or somebody that's just their own business and they don't really think it's relevant. But a CMO or somebody that owns their own company is definitely going to be wanting to listen to the information that's relevant to their business. So knowing your audience is really important. And creating a community is actually something that can happen through live streaming. So we've done some work with Salesforce and Adobe and created live streaming campaigns for them that have then enabled them to create communities from it. So it's not just about a video on a screen, it's about the interaction between the users that are watching the live stream. And that's really important, so the users feel completely immersed in the experience. Okay, so how many people here do live streaming currently? I'm glad you put your hand up, Tom, that's good to know. Excellent, so only a few. Okay, so some people do live streaming and they sometimes do kind of their own live streaming at home, maybe doing, lots of people do live streaming for gaming. Lots of people might do some blog work or just maybe a home video of their holiday and pop it up onto YouTube. That's, you know, can be live streaming. But what they don't understand is when you're doing it for a professional content or for a brand or a customer, that it can be really restrictive and really detrimental to your name that you're putting against this live stream for. So things like user constraints is really important. Understanding the lighting and understanding, you know, maybe your bandwidth issues or understanding that the audio isn't controllable. All of these things are really important to make sure that your live stream is successful. There's lots of instances where live streams are not successful. I don't know if anybody watched the very bad news report that was publicised. I think he was talking about Brexit. There was a gentleman at home, had very good internet connectivity. It was just a headshot. And his child entered the room halfway through the live stream. We all cringed. We all made that face like, oh, Lord. But actually it does happen, and that's because it wasn't done in a professional environment. And the mum walked in, grabbed the child's little toy and pulled the baby back out. It does happen, unfortunately, when people are not managing their live streams appropriately. But hopefully by doing it in a professional setting, you're going to not have those issues. And they do sometimes still happen, but you're able to control it and have failover to stop it from happening as much. So the main plus point, I would say, for streaming professionally is the simultaneous streaming. So it's not about necessarily just going to multiple platforms. Like today, we're going to YouTube and Facebook. But you can also go to in-house digital signage or to content delivery networks across the business. We do a very large live stream twice a year for a customer in the fashion industry. And their live stream is sent out to their website as well as to every one of their local stores, which is thousands of stores locally, and then also to concessions as well. So it's a huge, huge live stream for us, and all managed by two of our senior systems architects. So it's completely doable, but you have to make sure that you've got every process in place to allow yourself to do that. The user aspect of it is limitless with professional streaming. So allowing any number of people to watch a live stream. When you're doing it at home or you're doing it in not such a professional setup, it can cut off and you can stop yourself from having a level of users watching. You also get things like child transcoding and encoding options, which I can drill into if anybody's interested. But it allows you to have, again, failover, gives you versatility of how you're encoding your video and making it more versatile to where the delivery output is, which is really important. And the other big one for us is no internet line is not a problem. So we did a big event in New York for Google for their Whiskey X. They didn't have any internet line in the building, so you can imagine the face on my senior engineer. He had to bring in a bonded 4G unit and a satellite broadcasting unit, and it was streamed flawlessly, better than they'd have any other stream previously done. So you can do these things. You can stream from far reaches of the world without an internet line, but you're not going to be able to do that if you don't do it professionally. Okay, so just giving you some information about the platforms that are currently available. Most of you have probably heard of Facebook and YouTube, and some of you possibly Periscope. Twitch is more for the esports community, and we'll just give you some information about those. So there are 1.74 million mobile active users on Facebook currently, and Facebook live videos are watched 3 times longer than videos that aren't live anymore. So you can imagine, you know, the people that are sat at home currently on their iPhone or sat in the office watching a live stream are going to be engaged far more in a live content video than they are in something that happened maybe a week ago or 3 weeks ago or has just been posted as a pre-cut video. People like the live feel. They like the fact that, you know, the person's engaging with you and that you can interact with them, and that's really important. Periscope is an incredibly powerful platform because it's now available in 25 languages, which again, if you're internationally live streaming or want to create that content across several regions, we do this for Google every quarter, and they, you know, they love the fact that their content can be in multi-languages and have closed captioning and things like this. These are the platforms that allow you to do those things. YouTube has 1,300,000,000 users who use YouTube currently. That is an incredible amount of people. Almost 5 billion videos are watched a day, and every day YouTube reports that the mobile video consumption has risen 100%. Is that not absolutely crazy? You know, that people are watching and ingesting this much footage, and we need to make the most of that and make sure that we're creating the content for them to watch. Twitch, we've kind of stepped into a little bit more in the last 18 months. We've made friends with some people over at Red Bull and created a gaming sphere with them. And they use Twitch to broadcast on. So Twitch is very popular in the esports community and has an extremely loyal user database. So they have 46 million active users, and it's all run on AWS, Amazon Web Services, because Amazon own it, so you'd hope so. 60% of users use Twitch for over 20 hours a week. I don't even have a spare 20 hours a week, let alone to sit and watch games. Milo. And 58% of Twitch users spend 20 hours a week watching videos on its site. So that's almost 3 hours a day. 3 hours a day consuming video content. That is a huge amount of video. So if you can tap into that market, if you can make your videos, you know, live stream into environments where it's relevant, you've got a whole new audience that you didn't have before at physical events and across training platforms. So sometimes we get an online experience event, we like to call them. So they're events that customers want to have more interactive content in. They maybe want to have handouts given to the customers. They might want to have some branding, or they've got an affiliate marketing that they want to showcase for the event. And we use platforms like InExpo. So this is a fairly recent partnership for us, and we're really excited about it because of the level of live streaming it can give us. So we can live stream across to all our platforms as well as into the actual service itself. And it's giving us a whole new lease of life to create online experience events for our customers. So we do work with other companies as well, like Adobe Connect, WebEx, so we're very agnostic to the service we provide, but it gives you an idea of the power behind the partnerships that we use. So again, here's another example for you. So we do this event annually. So last year it was in Dublin, and this year it's going to be in Toronto, and it's called Code Jam. So lots of coders in a room, sitting at PCs, all wanting to win the competition of who can break the problem. So it's a coding problem. They're all stuck in a room. It's like caged animals, really. And they sit in a room and code furiously. Some of them start throwing things around the room. It's quite a tense atmosphere, isn't it, Rob? It's, you know, very, very fun to watch. But we're simultaneously streaming to YouTube and across other platforms and to websites for a 4-hour length live stream, which doesn't sound long, but it really is when you're doing it and you don't want anything to go wrong. So we did this last year in Dublin, so they've got a big thing about where the location is of the live stream. So we try and build in a little bit of footage, get some presenters to talk about what's going on. And this year we're going to be doing it in Toronto. So we'll be cutting into the scenes in Toronto. So it's quite difficult to make sure that pre-recorded content is fitted into the live stream, and then you're cutting to hosts and anchors and then cutting to players, all while making sure that the actual footage of what the coders themselves are actually doing is going on. And you've got to do all of this non-stop for 4 hours, making sure it all works. So it's, I think Milo and Rob were there last year and they came back a little bit more tired than they left, because it's typically maybe a 20-hour day for us. So, and that's not uncommon in the live streaming world. So I'll play you the video and you can see what you think.
So many amazing competitors, 42 this year from 16 countries. This is the top folks from more than 65,000 registered participants.
This year it was in Dublin, so it's definitely a unique experience.
It's exciting to see people from all over the world compete. It's great to be back for Distributed Code Jam. It's the 3rd Distributed Code Jam we've held.
So distributed computing is an important topic now, and it's really great competitions on that topic.
I think it's a really great place for people to kind of get introduced to competitive programming and also about like algorithms, kind of explore the whole like more mathematical side of programming that a lot of the time you just don't see when you're doing like web development.
Distributed Code Jam has problems that you don't find anywhere else. Even one mistake can be incredibly costly.
I think the problems keep getting tougher, which is good. Keeps our returning competitors challenged and then allows the chance for newcomers to shine as well.
Contestants now have previous years to look at to train up on.
The competition keeps growing, which is great to see.
That's just where this competitive programming really should go.
The excitement and the energy of the Code Jam finals is something I look forward to every year.
It's kind of a dream job for me because I love puzzles.
The different powers of the matrix that you need are always the same.
We often write the problems knowing that there's more than one way to solve them, so we sort of expect different approaches. Yeah, and it's not clear which way is best.
The action was great. It was a long, fierce day of competition and battling. Really exciting to see new competitors on the scoreboard from all over the world coming in.
It was quite successful.
I don't think it really could have gone better.
Progress is clearly made. The competition becomes more polished.
We hope that keeps growing. It's getting bigger and bigger each year.
There's a lot more audiences that it can reach, and I think it's doing some of that with Kickstarter as far as I can tell.
So I hope that it reaches more people around the world, more people learn about it, discover it, fall in love with it, and I think the momentum is really picking up, which is really exciting to see.
This world is old and wild.
So many amazing competitors, 42 this year from 16 countries. This is the top folks from...
Now I've lost my presentation. See, it doesn't always go smoothly. Okay, so the last thing I want to talk about is kind of new technology. We're doing quite a lot of 360 live streaming now, and also we're getting involved with AR and VR events as well. So this is something that's relatively new. We do some 360 streaming, but the ones that we do to a very high level. And it's one of those things that if you don't do it well, it can look really, really, really bad. So we kind of cherry pick the ones that we do at the moment because we want to make sure that anything that has got our name on it, we're doing to a high level. But 360 is a really effective way to provide an interactive, immersive live stream. So we've done some events for Google recently and back end of last year doing 360 live streaming. But it's a very popular way for music festivals, live concerts, anything at the theatre. Lots of people are doing this now to create that kind of new dimension to their live stream. So that's it from me. Has anybody got any questions?
Thank you. I was wondering, with live streaming, how much would you say is preparation and how much is improv when you're at an event?
That's a tough question. When it goes well, a live stream, you know, you should be doing as much preparation as you are live streaming. When something doesn't quite go as planned, which it does happen, you know, there's lots of moving parts to this that aren't controlled by us or another production house. Things like the YouTube platform and Facebook and things like that. You know, then the preparation kind of goes very, very high. But usually 50-50. We try and make sure that we put in as much preparation so everything's doubled up. So whatever we're streaming on, there's a secondary stream set up in case the first one fails. And we do everything in the cloud to make sure that it's resilient. But the preparation, yeah, takes a long time. Anybody else?
No?
No?
Okay, thank
Wonderful.
you very much, Hannah.
Thank you. Wonderful, so thank you all very much. We're going to have some drinks downstairs now, so if anybody would like to join us, please do make your way down. Bryony, lovely lady at the back, will guide you all down. Yeah, and if anybody wants to talk about anything that we've talked about today, please feel free to come and find us. Thank you.